In a stunning turn of events that has the streets talking and Hollywood shook, Lil Meech reportedly called his own father, Big Meech, a traitor after he rejoined the BMF crew under 50 Cent's wing, despite once swearing never to work with 50 again, and even siding with Rick Ross in their bitter feud, only to be betrayed by Ross and come crawling back to 50 in a desperate bid for redemption. This ain't just your average celebrity spat. This is a multi-layered, emotional, and downright explosive saga of betrayal, loyalty, ego, and the price of survival in the worlds of hip-hop, crime legacy, and television fame. It's the kind of story that feels like a movie, but this time, it's all too real. Let's rewind. Because to understand the weight of this feud, we gotta go back to the origins, the root of this tangled mess of loyalty and betrayal. The BMF story isn't just a television series. It's a legacy, a brand, and most importantly, a family name drenched in legend and controversy. At the heart of it all stands Big Meech, the larger-than-life figure who helped build one of the most infamous drug empires in American history, the Black Mafia family. And then there's his son, Demetrius Lil Meech Flannery Jr., who carried that name into the world of entertainment and gave the BMF legend a second life through the hit series produced by 50 Cent. It all started out like a dream. 50 Cent, already known for turning power into a cultural juggernaut, saw the potential in the BMF story and made a move that many saw as both genius and poetic, casting Lil Meech to play his father. The real son stepping into the shoes of the real kingpin? It was perfect. The show took off, and Lil Meech began to shine in the spotlight. He was the face of the brand, the star of the narrative, and suddenly, the name Meech wasn't just about a past. It was about a future. But behind the scenes, things were bubbling. Tensions were growing, and it wasn't long before loyalty was tested. When Big Meech, still incarcerated at the time, caught wind of the growing tension between 50 Cent and Rick Ross, he had a choice to make. And according to sources close to the situation, that's when the first fracture began. Rick Ross had always been vocal about his admiration for Big Meech. He even famously shouted him out in the iconic line, "I think I'm Big Meech, Larry Hoover," putting Meech's name on the mainstream map in a whole new way. That line wasn't just a bar, it was a cultural stamp. So, when Ross started beefing with 50 Cent, rumors started flying that Big Meech was quietly supporting Ross in the feud, possibly because of the shout-out, possibly because of personal promises behind the scenes. And here's where things took a dark twist. According to insiders, Big Meech allegedly made a bold statement from behind bars. He told close associates that once he got out, he would never work with 50 Cent. He felt betrayed. Maybe it was business. Maybe it was personal. Maybe 50 made moves that didn't sit right with Meech. Whatever the reason, word on the street was clear. Big Meech had chosen Rick Ross over 50. And when word of that decision reached Lil Meech, everything changed. Imagine being a young man trying to carve your own path, trying to honor your father's legacy, and the very man you're honoring decides to side with your mentor's biggest enemy. That's the emotional gut punch Lil Meech allegedly felt. He reportedly tried to keep his head down, tried to keep things neutral, but deep down, there was resentment brewing. And then came the real twist. After years of distancing himself from 50 Cent, Big Meech suddenly switched up. Out of nowhere, he was back in talks with 50. Whispers began to circulate that Big Meech had cut off ties with Rick Ross. Why? According to several sources, Ross had betrayed him, whether it was over broken promises, business deals that went south, or simply Ross not following through on supporting Meech the way he once claimed. Something snapped, and Big Meech found himself stranded, betrayed, and desperate enough to call 50 Cent. When news broke that Big Meech had reached back out to 50, not only to reconcile but to join the BMF crew, fans were stunned. Wasn't this the same man who swore he'd never work with 50 again? The same man who threw his weight behind Rick Ross? And now, he was back, reportedly begging to be part of the empire he once turned his back on. That was when everything exploded. Sources close to production say that when Lil Meech found out about his father's reversal, he was livid, not just disappointed, but outright enraged. And in a moment of raw emotion, he reportedly called Big Meech a traitor. That word wasn't just a label, it was a dagger. Because to Lil Meech, this wasn't about business. It was about family, about loyalty, about integrity. He felt that his father's return to 50 wasn't just a betrayal of a personal vow. It was a betrayal of the legacy he had helped build. Lil Meech had stayed loyal. He rode with 50 from day one. He turned the BMF series into a success. He put in the work, showed up to every promo, played the role with heart and grit. And now, after all that, the same man who shunned 50 was crawling back for a piece of the pie. But the drama didn't stop there. Insiders say that behind closed doors, there were heated arguments, phone calls filled with shouting, production meetings that went left. Lil Meech reportedly confronted 50, demanding to know why he would allow someone who once disrespected him back into the fold. And 50? Well, he's not one to fold under pressure. Word is he told Lil Meech straight up, "This is business." In other words, put your feelings aside. But when it's your father we're talking about, that's not so easy. Lil Meech felt blindsided. He'd been the loyal soldier, the dedicated son, the rising star. And now his father, who had publicly picked the enemy, was being welcomed back with open arms by the same man he once disrespected. To Lil Meech, this wasn't just betrayal.